All right, hello and welcome back to the Lacrosse Culture Daily YouTube page. A little bit of a different edition today. We're going to do the Box Lacrosse Rundown newsletter, kind of just in video form today. So I want to run through everything that's happening around the country of Canada in box lacrosse and around the game of box lacrosse in general here. So obviously the story right now has been the OJLL playoffs and a big night last night, a big weekend as all four series now have played both their first and second games. So the story, obviously, that everyone has been watching is Beaches versus the Orangeville Northmen, and the Northmen secured a 10-6 victory last night at Ted Reeve Arena. I wasn't there. I was in Six Nations. We'll get to that game, but reports I've heard was that Connor O'Toole was really the star of the game, and he was really outstanding in Game 1, too. I think that's been a real difference maker for Orangeville. Not that their goaltending situation was any sort of an issue before that, but O'Toole has really stepped up his game here in the playoffs. I thought he was outstanding in Game 1 and then was really good in Game 2. And the reality is, obviously, lots of folks out there rooting for Beaches given, the circumstances of this year. The reality is they're in tough now, having going back to Tony Rose, for Game 3. They're going to have to win 2 out of 3 at Tony Rose and obviously 3 in a row. On the flip side, the legend can grow here for Beaches. They've been back from the dead once already here and now an opportunity to do it again. And guys like Firth and Collison, it's certainly possible, and it's a really good team. Look for, Will Sheehan and Greg Palmer are going to be keys, kind of get going a little bit more. Sheehan, no goals in Game 2, but this Orangeville defense is really good. The additions they've made have all worked out really well, and they got bigger, they got older, and they got better in the goal. And that typically is a very good, formula for junior A lacrosse success. So a night off tonight for that series, a well-earned night off. And then, Tuesday night in Tony Rose, I'll be there on the call for the OJLL and expecting that one to be another packed barn and a really outstanding Ontario lacrosse game as Beaches is once again fighting for their life. By the way, something that they're used to. They've been fighting for their life for 2 months now. And then bumping around, the game I called last night was Six Nations versus Peterborough. And, an interesting year for the Lakers, kind of a slow start. And then they go on this big run, ended up in the second seed, and now they're down 0-2 going back to the Memorial Center. I definitely think they're in a better spot than Beaches is, given A, the games have been really close, and B, they only have to win one more road game, right? So they get the chance to defend the Memorial Center twice. I think that's going to be really important. Obviously, those two venues are not close to each other, so the home team theoretically should have pretty significant advantage with the bus legs and things like that. A weird game last night for Peterborough. They scored 3 goals in the first 5 minutes, 4 goals in the first period, and then just couldn't find a way past Saga Thompson after that. 2 goals in the second period and then got blanked in the third as Six Nations just had a really impressive defensive performance. And Peterborough had their looks. They had a number of good looks inside the paint of the defense, and Thompson was really good. And we've been talking about Kazik and O'Toole and some of the other best goalies around the league. Gervais and Peterborough and Saga Thompson are in that list for sure. And it was the first time I've seen either of them play in person. They were both really good, and just not a lot of weak ones going in last night. You really had to kind of earn your goals, and it was a good game because of the scores. There's been no roughing penalties or anything like that really in that series. So it was a really good game, fast. Six Nations, I think, is going to sneak up on some people. They can really move. They got some guys on their back end, not the biggest group ever, but they can really, they're quick and they can get up the floor. And then Peterborough is pretty big. They're big and they're athletic and they impose their will defensively. It's just about hitting a few more shots, I think, for the Lakers. I don't know if there's a ton to change from their game plan. You just got to try to score more of them in tight. And, one of the things that was really difficult for them was Thompson plays deep in his goal, and it was really hard to score on cross-crease passes. I think that was really one of the issues for Peterborough, especially on the power play, is feeling like they were getting wide open looks, pipe to pipe, or even pipe to pipe back to the original pipe, and just couldn't find a way to get those to go in the net. And what are you going to do if the goalie's making cross crease saves pipe to pipe? There's not usually better options than that. So hopefully more of those go in. But I think that one is still a bit of a toss-up, just given how good Thompson was, and that stuff can vary. And then obviously Peterborough going home, so we'll see what that series looks like. But a fun game last night, and I was glad to finally see some of those teams in person. On that note, Noah Snyder was really good for Six Nations. He led the team in scoring in their first game, and then had another good one last night. And I had to check my notes this morning. He didn't come over in the trade for Thunderhill, but St. Catharines and Six Nations traded twice this year. One time was Noah Snyder getting sent from St. Catharines to Six Nations, and another time was Thunderhill getting traded from Six Nations to St. Catharines. Why am I bringing this up? Because we've heard a lot about these other trades at the OJLL deadline with the Orangeville guys and Beaches adding McDonald and Sheehan. But this was a rare trade, or a rare series of trades. It kind of went under the radar, but it's really benefited both teams. Snyder's been really good in the first two games of the playoffs, had 2 goals, 4 assists in the first game, and then 3 goals, 2 assists last night. You could tell he was hunting his shot late in the game and really looking to be a scorer. And I thought it was effective. He scored a big goal in the third period and really helped, break the dam of that Peterborough defense. And then Thunderhill, now in St. Catharines, has been really good for the Athletics and has really given them a boost on that left side. I think that was something they were looking for, just more production out of their left side. So, just wanted to kind of credit both those players, both those teams. Probably not the season they imagined, but making the most of new scenarios, and both of them now looking like they potentially have an opportunity to go to the second round. Obviously more work left for the Athletics. That series is the lone series actually at 1-1. Jumping to that game, a good bounce back last night for the Athletics. They led pretty much from tip to tip. In this one, he scored the first goal, never trailed, and Thunderhill got them going in the first period, and then he scored a big power play goal in the third period. So that series is at 1-1. I've been kind of discussing this throughout the playoffs, but an interesting kind of past and future here. Burlington won the Minto Cup last year. St. Catharines will host the Minto Cup next year. Not very many fifth years on this St. Catharines team, just 3 in the lineup, including Thunderhill, and quite a few on Burlington, including Will McLeod, Alex Marnier, guys who are really big parts of that Minto Cup team. And then they traded for a couple more from Oakville as well. So that's looking to be one of the best series so far, just given that it's, like I said, the only one at 1-1, but we'll see how that one goes. I'll be in St. Catharines Wednesday night, so another full week of action here for the OJLL. The official shots on goal in this game, by the way, 61-49 for St. Catharines, so a good bounce back for them, and obviously the 4 goals, credit to Oliver Van Noy and that defense. Defense has not been the issue for the most part for St. Catharines this year. At times, they just couldn't find big goals when they needed them, but for the most part, they lost close games to good teams, and then hit a bit of a rough patch. But credit to the Athletics, they were down and out. I think they were at 1-8, 1-9. Certainly benefited from the Beaches, news of this summer, but then made the most of their opportunity and really went on a run there. And no surprise for a Steve Toll coach team to not ever quit. So credit to them, and Burlington. The proof is in the pudding for them last year. These guys know how to win games. They're not going to be rattled by anything. They certainly have the experience advantage here. So we'll see the extent to which the Blaze can kind of continue to use that veteran savvy throughout the rest of the series. Obviously, you got to score more goals than 4. Not breaking anyone's news there. And then the last series, Mimico Brampton. I called this game on Saturday night, and then they played game 2 last night on the back-to-back. Mimico getting the better of them in this one, 11-6, 5-1 first period for the Mountaineers. That's a good sign. Mimico has relied probably too much at times on third-period comebacks. They needed the third-period comeback on Saturday night to come back over the Excelsiors. So a defiant win for the Mountaineers, and now they'll come home to Mimico Arena, the Drummond Street Bowl, and try to punch their ticket to the next round. So Mimico's definitely cruising. This 5-goal differential is the biggest differential we've seen in a game so far in the playoffs. So, with the Six Nations Peterborough series, both of those games were 8-6, and then obviously the 1-1 Burlington St. Catharines. So, a lot of really good games coming up. I won't be doing anything tonight, but Orangeville Tuesday, St. Catharines Wednesday, and it should be a really fun game. Looking forward to that game tomorrow. I think a lot of folks around the country will be really interested to see how Beaches can kind of react in now a truly must-win game up in Orangeville. So lots of good action going around, and pleasure. It's been a pleasure to watch the great lacrosse here throughout the province of Ontario. And then switching to the BCJALL, that's a mouthful. We finally have the official standings, and we know what these playoff scenarios are going to look like. So Coquitlam will take on Burnaby. We knew that was going to be a scenario, and we knew that Port Coquitlam was going to take on Nanaimo. We now know that Port Coquitlam is going to host that series. They finished with the 2 seed, Nanaimo in the 3 seed, and Burnaby with the 4. I haven't been following the BCJALL as closely as Ontario, obviously, being an Ontario-based guy, but just following this year, it seems like there's more parity than we've seen. And one of the interesting things is Burnaby is playing Coquitlam in the first round. Well, the Lakers have beat Coquitlam, I believe, twice this year. So the proof is in the pudding there. And, at least some seeds of doubt that Burnaby can place. And then obviously a big one for Port Coquitlam to win to get the host seed. For folks not from the West Coast, Nanaimo is on Vancouver Island, so it's significant home floor advantage there for Port Coquitlam. So they'll definitely take the home seed, and we have a potential coming down the pike for a Port Coquitlam, finish in the BCJLL. But Nanaimo's been really good, and we have to mention Coquitlam has really loaded up. Cody Milosky back in an Adirondack uniform, looking for another Minto Cup run. He'll get one. Coquitlam is hosting, so he'll play in another Minto Cup for Coquitlam. Noah Manning coming over from Victoria, 2 guys who play their college ball for the Denver Pioneers, and 2 21-year-old guys. I've been saying this throughout the playoffs, but when there's things you can't quite put your finger on, advantages you can't quite put your finger on in junior A lacrosse, age typically has a big reason to do with it. So Coquitlam's loaded up. Port Coquitlam loaded up with Silas Richmond. Nanaimo added some guys too. And Burnaby with the goalie coming over from Langley has been really good. So expecting a fun series there as we wait for the first games to come through in the BCJLL. Haven't seen any confirmation just yet on when those games will start, but expecting that to come later today, and expecting these BCJALL playoffs to get going here pretty soon. Just 4 teams make it in BC versus 8 teams out in Ontario. But Ontario, the first series is 5 games, so a little bit of differential there. But BC will get going here pretty soon as we continue to march towards the Minto Cup. And then jumping out to the RMLL in Alberta, the Edmonton Miners up 2-0 in their series. Okotoks Raiders up 3-0 in their series. That series between the Raiders and the Calgary Mountaineers, their 11th straight time playing in the playoffs. So just a 4-team league in the RMLL, so you're going to get the same, playoff scenarios most times, but still an incredible 11 straight years of that rivalry, and the Raiders getting the best of it so far. Cash Fritters, I think that's how you pronounce it. My apologies if not. Leading the way in scoring in Alberta this summer, in the playoffs at least, with 3 goals and 15 assists in just those 3 games. Carson Bowley, 6 goals, 10 assists in the 16, and then Jack Royer has led the way for the Edmonton Miners, just 2 games there, 1 goal, 13 assists. So Royer definitely been one of the best feeders out there. We've seen Royer, Bowen, some of these other Miners players feature large in that Minto Cup run 2 years ago, played in another Minto Cup last year, and we've seen several of those players have success in the NLL. So a good group out there, coached by Johnny Lintz and other guys who really know what they're doing. So, Raiders and Miners seem at this point to be on a collision course for the final series, but obviously, you still got to wrap it up. It's not over until it's over, but some fun series going on out east. I wanted to mention Dylan Beliveau as well, leading the entire playoff so far in the RMLL in goals with 8. So, Fritters and Bowley, really have been the distributors, and then Beliveau putting the ball in the back of the net. So a lot of good players out there, and excited to see, how that series progresses. There are some links to those games available online, which we will link in the newsletter, but a fun, playoff series going on out there in the RMLL. in the MSL, the story of the summer between both the MSL and the WLA is these two undefeated teams seemingly headed for each other come late August, early September in the Man Cup. So Six Nations is going to finish their regular season at a perfect 12-0, or actually 11-0, but there's a schedule makeup to happen between Oakville and Six Nations. And then Victoria is still undefeated in the WLA. That season goes significantly later. The MSL playoffs are going to start, I believe, this week, whereas the Shamrocks still have 5 or so more games to play. But two undefeated teams this late in the season. I'm not a historian of this stuff, but I got to imagine that's pretty rare. And, so a lot of talent between those two rosters. Obviously, folks know about how good the Six Nations team is, but Victoria quietly putting together a really strong team out there as well. So lots left to be played. Undefeated seasons aren't undefeated until they're over. But, that seems to be the story of the summer, heading towards what should be an epic Man Cup here in August/September, and that's going to be out in Ontario. So lots of great lacrosse going on, lots of streaming, way more access to these games than we had just a few years ago. So make sure you're watching, supporting, and really going to games in person if you can. There's nothing like catching, especially a Junior A playoff game in person. It's hard to convey the feeling through the TV screen. So if you can get there, then go, and if not, catch all the great streaming, because in BC, Alberta, and Ontario, there's games being streamed, and that's relatively new. So kudos to all the great people organizing those things and putting them together and getting them online so lacrosse fans can really enjoy all the great action we have in the summer. That's it for today. That's the Box Lacrosse Rundown video version, and we'll see you soon.